Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. As I mentioned in the last video, which was a little bonus look at my April bullet journal setup, I had a survey recently and a lot of you guys asked to see more bullet journal things and more art related things, and I was happy to oblige because I'm kind of in love with my bullet journal this year. The theme is right up my alley. It is so my aesthetic. It's been great art therapy just all around. I'm loving it. So let's go ahead and dive in. Apologies if I'm a little bit quiet in this video. My 5-month-old nephew is sleeping on the bed next to me, and I don't want to awaken the beast. So this little blush baby pink journal is my journal for this year. I had been struggling to find one that suited me for the longest time, and then just randomly found this one on a clearance rack, and it's perfect. So that was fortuitous, I guess. But my theme this year is a kind of floral celestial thing, which you'll see with this opening page, which has a little more of an Art Deco feel, and you're not seeing the floral yet, but that will come. But I loved the way this looked, and I loved how it kind of set the tone. Next we have my just standard cheat sheet. So this is a spacing guide so that I don't have to count squares or dots to know how to space things out, where the midpoint of a page is, or how big a box is going to look if I do it X by X. So just something handy to have. Then we have what I'm calling a well-wish bouquet, which is a little bit of a hodgepodge where every plant in it represents a wish that I have for myself and for all of you for this year. Health, joy, things like that. And then a extensive spread where I can log plants based on their sort of loric and mythic ties to those different what are called correspondences. This is something that I used to study a lot when I was a kid, and I just always found it really fascinating, just interesting trivia and the beliefs that people have about these things. It's one of the things I want to relearn this year, and this spread is supposed to be a place for me to log it so that everything is in one handy location for when I'm doing the plant studies I'm going to talk about later. It's a very pretty spread, but as you can see, I'm not actually doing the work, so it will be useful, but it's not yet. Then we have my year at a glance spread, which has 6 months to each set of 2 pages, with a little celestial floral border at the top. I also have a lunar calendar, which again I have not filled the dates out for, so it's useless. And my 2021 goals, again, floral, celestial, just hammering that theme home. I love how this page turned out. I have my books read in 2021 spread, which has 52 books on it, so 1 per week, although I'm ahead of where I need to be, so I'm probably going to have to make a second one of these. And then a self-care spread that I have done nothing with. I have ideas for it, I can see it in my head, I just need to sit down and do it. I have a savings tracker and a writing tracker, and then my thoughts kind of heading into 2021, just based on the chaos of last year, as well as a quote page to kind of set the tone for the year. And now we're into my month by month. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been doing plant studies where I choose a plant that represents the theme for the month, and then I do a little sketch on craft paper with some notes about its properties, and that kind of sets the tone for the month. I also originally had intended to make these little envelopes for each month where I could put like notes and keepsakes, but I didn't put anything in it, so it ended up being kind of pointless. I do like how it looked though, so maybe I'll reincorporate that. The weekly spreads tend to be a lot more basic. I don't want to spend too much time on them, though I do incorporate little bits here and there to kind of reinforce the theme. I'm just going to pause on this spread though, just for a second. Just take this in. We'll come back to that. But as I was saying, I keep my weekly spreads pretty simple. I occasionally incorporate some stickers like these transparent circles, or I add in some little doodles, but for the most part I like to keep it clean and quick, otherwise I won't do it. Now this right here, February, this is probably my favorite spread of the whole journal, and maybe of any that I've ever done. Maybe. I'd have to go back through things, but I love everything about it. I've shown pictures of it online, but I don't think you would have been able to tell in the pictures that it sparkles. I used a glitter pen on it, and oh, I love the way it looks. This is just, I eat this up right here. Just black and white, simple floral doodles, right up my alley. My February flower was pansies or violas, which I love. This one was such a fun one to incorporate throughout the month. And I also did an NaCoWriMo spread. NaCoWriMo is International Correspondence Writing Month. I'm covering the addresses here because I wrote down everyone's addresses. But this is actually a fold-out 2-page spread, so that I had a box for each day of the month. Really liked how that turned out. Now, remember the spread we paused on earlier? Yeah, I ended up doing the exact same thing just a few weeks later, completely having forgotten that I had done it to begin with. But this was a bookish goals and a blog brain dump. I did do a video on the bookish goals. Funny thing is, I wrote the exact same goals both times. Don't know what's wrong with me. But so that doesn't happen again, I gave myself a tab so that I know that I have a sort of blog brain dump all ready to go. I don't need to create a third one. Do you ever just feel like you need a bullet journal to help you keep track of the fact that you're bullet journaling? Because sometimes I think I've lost my mind. About mid-February I started doing these sort of split-page floral borders, and I just love them. I don't know if you can tell, but this one that I'm kind of shimmying back and forth has some sparkle to it, but that's something I've been incorporating pretty frequently now, and I think I will continue to. I also really love how this March opening page turned out. Little floral moon again, just had to hammer that home. The flower for March was the American Lotus, one of my absolute favorites. Really, really cool plant, you should look it up. And then I also started incorporating some gold elements with this homemade gold calligraphy / watercolor paint that I made. I love it, it is so, so shiny. Really lovely, and it adds such a nice pop. I've been using it in a couple of different ways, kind of like here where I just took a little dot of it on a palette knife and then scraped it across the page to be the day of the week label. But I've also been using it kind of dotted into some of the floral elements for a little bit of shine, or as borders around some of the months or around the floral motifs. Just really, really love the way it looks. Speaking of, here's one as a border around the pansy and tulip floral motif. We have my reading log, which I've started reincorporating, especially since it is 30-day book binge now. And then here is a different take on the kind of split border, little snowdrops. And then this one of daffodils and buttercups. I really loved how this one turned out. I also used some ink from an ink pad on this one, and it gives it a nice hazy look. And that is it for Q1 of 2021. As I mentioned earlier, I did do a full video on my setup for April, so if you'd like to see how I go about incorporating these elements like the plant studies or anything like that, I will leave that video linked in the description, and you can go and check all of that out, as well as find out a little bit more about 30-day book binge. But that is the walkthrough for what I've done so far for my bullet journal for 2021. Before I go, though, I do want to mention one last thing, which I thought was a kind of genius idea. I finally just wrote myself a task list and taped it into the back of my journal backwards so that it flips out and I can see the whole thing when I'm planning my week. Genius! Why had I never thought to do that before? So there you have it. That was a look at my 2021 bullet journal so far. As I said, I am loving this theme. I don't see it changing at any point during this year. I think I'm going to keep going, and I think it's kind of expanding into other aspects of my life as well. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and if you have a theme or approach that you're taking this year, I would love to hear about it. But that is all for now. Things that I mentioned will be linked in the description, like 30-day book binge, and I will see you guys again real soon for, I think, a vlog is up next. But until then, thank you guys for watching, and happy reading, happy journaling, happy spring, and happy Easter!